We just watched episode 8 of season 2 of Peacemaker, which means we saw the finale of Peacemaker season 2. And I think I am with a lot of you guys here when I'm going to say I'm a little confused. There were plenty of things that I thought were great, but then there were a lot of other things that felt uneven. And that is my word for describing this season is uneven, which isn't to say it's bad, right? Like, I think uneven means there's certain things that are working really well and like they're weighing the seesaw down a lot, but then there's other things that feel like they're not working as well. And that makes the balance of the show feel kind of weird. Maybe ends up hurting the pacing and hurting the overall like arc of the series. Or maybe, make some parts of certain episodes not as interesting. Certain characters aren't as interesting as others because of the unevenness. And I think these James Gunn superhero projects have always been, at their core, cool with being uneasy, right? Like, they are not supposed to be this perfectly manicured, fully balanced thing. They like to think, as Superman says, it's like they're punk rock. And maybe not the most punk rock thing you could possibly be, but like they are challenging some of the conventions of this media. And I respect that, but I feel like in this season, there were more things than usual that didn't work. And when the balance tips that far, the whole thing goes from being like the charming punk rock to being kind of like messy, what are we doing here? And again, that's not to say that I don't think this is worth watching or well written or well acted or anything like that. I think it is all of those things, but I also think coming out of it, me and a lot of fans for sure are going to have some questions, and some of them are like the nerdy nitpicks, but I think a lot of them are like substantial like questions about what the series is, what this season was about, and why it became maybe a little bit frustrating near the end. Okay, so we're going to talk full spoilers pretty much from here on out. So you have not watched the episode and you want to, go watch it, come back, and we're going to talk from here on all spoilers. This is my big thought coming out of this episode, which is like, this feels like clearly, right? And I think like from a storytelling perspective, there's certain things like structurally, like the 3-act structure that I think overall are overvalued in Hollywood, right? And overvalued in like storytelling. I think there's something to them. And obviously I've talked about them a lot in videos. I think it's more useful for like analyzing media than like for creating art, if that makes sense. Like, I think you can use that to understand maybe how you felt about something. I think that is key here, because this episode 8 feels like we're moving into act 3. Like, we are just about to do the thing. Everything that happened in this episode, except for the very end, which we'll get to, but everything that happened up until like the end felt like that. Like, everybody went through this big struggle in act 2. They hit this huge low point, and now they have to build themselves back up. They have to make some decisions. And I think if you look at the way this episode is paced, that's what happens, right? Chris is in jail. He gets out of jail. He's very sad. The team comes to him. Chris and the team rediscover who they are. They decide, like, we are good people who have been listening to the wrong people, and we've done all these things and it's led us in the wrong direction. So we need to take control of our destiny, take responsibility for who we are, and then we need to use that to make the world a better place. Perfect. I think that's kind of like what the last season was like. Exposing Waller felt like that was a move that would lead to, but then it's like, we go to listen to Rick Flag Sr. It's fine. But either way, if anything, it's just like, it's a natural progression of that theme of like these characters breaking out of this mold and doing their own thing. So that's this big, moment of personal growth that would take us into act 3, where we would do the thing, which I think it's pretty clear what they would do here, even though like Earth X was a big part of like act 2 of the show. If there were 10 episodes and this were kind of balanced the way you would expect, episodes 9 and 10 would be the team going and stopping Rick Flag Sr. from creating his jail. It would be like they would either expose them or just fight them. There would be something like that. The team would do something besides just existing. And I think we know that, right? Like, I think we, the audience, see this episode and go, and now what? And what are the problems with the idea of a cinematic universe can be? You don't do the act 3 in the thing. You don't tell a full story. You go, that'll be in the next thing, Man of Tomorrow or whatever. That'll be where we get the act 3. We get the resolution for this team. And that feels unsatisfying as like a viewer, but more than that, like, it's just, that's not what a show is. A show is a season of television, especially something short like this. It's not like serialized, like sitcom or something. It tells a story. It tells there's a beginning, middle, and an end. And like, we feel like we're missing the end. And I'll get to what is my biggest issue with this episode. And I think it is a pretty big issue. And I think it is one that makes sense considering where the new DCU is, but it's still a problem. And I think it's something they've got to work on. And I think it's something audiences are kind of tired of. So we'll get to it. Let's just talk about the whole episode. Chris is in prison. That's interesting, I guess. It's weird that he's immediately out of prison. That I didn't love. I will say, okay, so the big standouts, because I feel like I'm too negative. We'll get negative as this goes. The negativity mostly comes at the end. The positivity in this episode, Danielle Brooks, Adebayo. We'll get to like the acting and like all the really, really emotional speeches and stuff. I loved and have loved this whole season her energy, and you get a little bit more of that in this scene, and even just the shot where Vigilante's mom is like, hey, you got a friend, it's Lee, and the camera pans over and she's like, hey, like having fun. I've said this a million times. This is the thing that bugs me the most about these movies and shows and stuff, is when there is nobody having fun. Nobody's enjoying it. I love it when a character, even if it's just one, is having a good time doing this, because if they're not, why am I? Like, I think Superman was that in Superman, and like that works, but also it could be like Red Guardian in Thunderbolts, or even Johnny Storm in Fantastic Four. It could be like not the main character, and it can still keep the energy up. And just like, yeah, like I came to see these characters do this thing, and I need at least one of them to want to do that. I thought it was cool when Adebayo goaded Vigilante into helping and using the money to bail Peacemaker out of jail. So that made sense. I like the idea that came up in this episode. Obviously, it's been like a theme of Peacemaker. These are characters who have done bad things or have inherited bad things and need to use them actively to do good things. And like that is their mission. And I think that's great. I do think when this episode started and we're doing the doors, I thought it was interesting. And again, this is kind of back to my issues with Argus feeling small. It does feel small. The idea that Harcourt, and was clearly part of some sort of mission that Peacemaker did, that like she's not in trouble, she doesn't have to go to jail because Peacemaker took all the heat for them, which was cool. But like Rick Flag's not an idiot. He knows that like that's probably not what happened. The idea that he would put her in charge of this mission now, I feel like is pretty crazy. Also, the idea that Judo Master has to go to this mission, and Tim Meadows, like, why are we sending them? Why are we making Judo Master go on this mission of just opening doors to maybe get exploded in costume? Everybody knows who he is. They know his name. Also, if you saw that guy walking down the street, you'd go, oh, that must be Judo Master, because he's a 4'11" tall man. So like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, like, the idea that this character is the most conscious when it comes to his secret identity. We've never even seen him like out of his mask, I think. Maybe we have once or twice, but like, I think it's funny. But at the same time, it's like, feels like Argus. I guess this brings up another question for me. What is Argus? It makes sense as S.H.I.E.L.D. It is a more evil version of S.H.I.E.L.D. But like, it doesn't feel like S.H.I.E.L.D. felt in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially because like, this is a world that has been built out, but it feels like Argus just started yesterday. And it's always the same 8 people. You know, they go into like a warehouse and set up some tables. This is another like set thing that always kind of bugs me. I guess I'm not saying that this needs to feel like S.H.I.E.L.D., but it feels like it's supposed to. And it's formidable because it is backed by the government. I just wish there were more people, more extras just milling around doing stuff. That's, you know, it's expensive, so I get it. But we see now that the team, every character we would recognize, is going into these doors, trying to open them, and they're looking for something. Now, I think it's cute that the doors are all bad and they all get attacked or killed or something. I think it's interesting that we use this to highlight Flurry's arc of being sad that his guys keep dying, and that being, it seems like, the breaking point for him with Argus. I don't think we've really gotten quite enough from this character to like understand why he acts this way, and also is super sexist and like just like a bad person to work with, but he also like has a heart of gold and stuff. I feel like this is a character who like deserves an episode where we learn that about him. It doesn't even have to be that much stuff, just like a little bit, because I felt like I was missing something with him. The scene in Candy World where the little guys ate everybody, apparently these are the imps. So in the new DCU, the imps are these little guys and big giant eyeballs that we all thought were Solaris, but are not. The thing they don't appear to be is what traditionally in the comics imps are, which is like Mr. Mixie Spitlix or Batmite, or these 5th dimensional creatures that are like kind of all powerful and also like super kooky. I think it's fine, but it's just weird to me that they didn't just name them something else, treat them like something else. We don't see too many doors. I was kind of hoping we would see more doors. We really just see Candy World, the skull skeleton one, which is funny, the zombie world, which I like, that was good, and then black hole world, which is just the black hole from Superman again, and then Salvation, which obviously is important. But I don't know, I would have liked to see more kooky little dimensions. But I guess, you know what it is? feels like this played out the reverse way you would kind of want something like this to, where you would open a door and it would be the zombie door. That'd be the first door you open. Oh my god, zombies. You open the second door. It's the spider world. Oh my god, the spider world, close that. Oh my god, are any of these worlds not going to be the worst place we've ever been? You open the third one, it's candy world. And everyone's like, ooh, this ain't so bad. This is not too, we can even breathe here maybe. Hey, look, it's that little guy. And then they eat you. That feels like the way that comedy beat would go. Just structurally, fine. Yeah, this is a little thing. This is also where we start to see this humongous turn, I would say, from Rick Flag Sr. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about it. I know I'm supposed to feel about him now. I don't know if I was always supposed to feel this way. And if I was supposed to feel this way during Creature Commandos. But like when the character says in this episode, like, this is a real big jump from where you were when Superman got arrested like a couple months ago, and you were like, hey, Lex Luthor's kind of a jerk. It's weird that now you're doing this. It feels like part of it is motivated by hating Peacemaker, obviously. Like, that's why he wants to get revenge on Peacemaker. But the fact that he has gone full, like, anti-metahuman kind of xenophobia, you gotta put him in their own little planet jail, feels strange. It's especially strange because, like, we just did that in the Superman movie. Lex Luthor's whole thing was, I'm going to create a jail in the middle of space where people can't get out, and that'll be where I put people that I want to mess with. So, like, I get it. This is, like, the next step, but it's I don't know. It's weird that that's the only plan that these characters have come up with in these two movies. It's just like, what if we make a big jail? Especially because, like, this jail doesn't seem like it would solve the Starro problem. Like, Lex probably wants to put Superman in there, but this doesn't seem like it'd be used for Superman. The Suicide Squad barely has any metahumans on it. I guess King Shark? So, like, I don't know. Who's going in this thing? We don't really have anybody yet. Dr. Phosphorus, I guess, some of the Creature Commandos, but they seem pretty contained. I'm not super worried about them. Doesn't seem like Rick Flag Sr. is either, because they never come up in this show, even though, like, if anything, they would be the reason why it's like, we gotta do something, because, like, I've been working with these dudes over here and they're nuts. And I guess it's interesting, too, because, like, if Rick Flag Sr. was upset that a metahuman killed Rick Flag Jr., or was upset that, like, Peacemaker was part of, like, a scheme with a metahuman or something, then I would get it. But this does feel like it came out of nowhere, and it seems like it came from the fact that he's just having a good time with the boys, you know, snorting lines and high-fiving and looking at things and going, oh yeah, this is good. And, like, I kind of got that from him, but I did feel in the beginning of the season like he was kind of genuinely concerned for hardcore, and at the same time as having this ulterior motive. But now it just feels like that was always a front, and he's fully wrapped up in this. And I don't know, it feels like a pretty big turn for him, especially because, like, Lex Luthor's like, oh, we gotta kill Superman, and then Rick Flag Sr.'s like, I don't think that's such a good idea in the Superman movie. And then the Superman movie happens. Like, by the end of it, Rick Flag Sr.'s convinced, like, I guess we do have to kill Superman. Like, of course not. Help Superman, or, like, you know, support him in some way. You're not stupid. This character isn't stupid. Like, he is kind of stupid when it comes to women, but he's not. I just don't know. I don't know. I like him mostly, and we'll get to, like, what he does, what his plan is. But yeah, I think it's interesting that they made Leota break up with her wife, still wife too, which, like, I was not sure where these characters were. A really well acted scene, a really well written scene, one that I wish we had gotten more build up to over the course of the season, because again, we saw Adebayo really loving being a spy, and I thought that was great. What we didn't really see was what she was leaving behind, outside of one conversation with Judo Master, and then the conversation in the early episodes, one or two, I can't remember, with the wife. Either way, it was a well put together, like, very mature scene. And that's the thing with James Gunn and these movies and shows and stuff. I like the way he writes these characters. Obviously, they're very human and stuff, but also, like, they do difficult things and things that you wouldn't expect in this kind of genre. I mean, like, Guardians 3, right? The easy way to play Guardians 3 is to have Star-Lord fall in love with Gamora. Eventually, she does kind of fall in love with him, and they get back together. It all works out. The complicated way, but, like, more real and more honest way, is to have them at the end go, you know what? This isn't the same thing, and we're different people, and I can't force you to, you know, fall in love with me again, so see you around. You have a new family now. Like, that was a very mature way to play that, and something I wouldn't expect from most other people in the genre right now. And I think that's why the Nazi thing over the course of this season felt so poorly handled to me. And it's not like me saying, like, oh, you shouldn't make Nazis the bad guy. I don't care. I think it's fun to kill them in movies and stuff. Like, that's great. But I guess it's more of an issue where, and I said this last week, but I want to say it again because I think it's really important considering we didn't get anything else for it here. Episode 6 ends with Peacemaker and Harcourt having a very difficult discussion about whether he's going to come back to their old universe, and all he wants to hear from her is whether she loves him or has any feelings for him, and she refuses to say that. So we have Peacemaker in a spot where he's like, I am in my perfect universe here, but also there's the real universe out there, but I can't decide which one to be in. Do I love the Harcourt that is easy to love, who is, already into me here, or do I love the one that I fell in love with, who is the true version of this, but who may never love me back? Interesting. And then it is revealed that they're Nazis, and it's like, well, obviously I'm leaving. I'm not staying here for this. This is not the correct pick. And it felt like a cheap kind of way to get out of that. And that was, I'd say, the first moment in this season where I'm like, oh, episode to episode, and like just the overall flow of this did feel very unbalanced. And like they set up that big emotional conflict and then just dropped it immediately. And they brought back the conflict, but the choice, having to leave the universe, which should be like a humongous thing for Chris, was no longer a thing. And that is one of my biggest problems with how Earth X was handled in Peacemaker. And I think that's extra true now, knowing there was nothing else to that. Like, there was more to Harcourt and Chris's relationship, but there wasn't more to why we were actually spending time on the Nazi Earth, which, like, I don't know, man. Which again, we could do the Nazi Earth, but if it undermines the emotional choice at the heart of this series, don't do it. It's not worth it. But anyway, I thought that part was cool. We're going a little out of order here based on how I remember the episode. But eventually, Harcourt and the team find this Goldilocks planet where people can live, and seemingly like it has air and it doesn't have like, technology, but it seems to have at least, food you can eat and water. So we learn then that what Rick Flag Sr. has been up to, and this is where we get the whole explanation, and I think this is interesting, is he wanted to create salvation. So salvation is a thing from the comics. There's a couple of things from the comics in this episode that are significant, but also confusing. Again, salvation is mostly for me confusing because we just did this. We just did Super Jail. It's different. It's a very different kind of Super Jail, but I wish, we had a villain whose plan wasn't make Super Jail, I guess, is where I was kind of hoping this would go. And I wasn't one of the people that's like, oh, he's trying to get Rick Flag Jr. back. I didn't really care about that. I don't think the character wants that either. I think he's more obsessed with revenge than actually like being happy. And I think that's part of what's wrong with him. But either way, this is the thing from the comics. It was created by Waller and Rick Flag. I assume Rick Flag Jr., but I don't remember. And it's part of a comic called Salvation Run. The idea is, and this is very not high level, it's a small comic. It's like 7 issues. It's pretty fun. You can read it. It's on that app. But basically, an organization that we will get to that is at that point led by Waller and one of the Rick Flags. It's like, we need to make a jail for the metahumans that is like a place where they can live, but like where we just don't have to deal with them because it's too much. And I think in the context of this world, that makes sense. I don't even think that's that crazy of an idea. I don't think it really fits where we are in the new DCU because like we have not dealt with too many metahuman villains that were not created by Lex Luthor or like sponsored by the government or something. Like, I don't think this universe has made the case that like, oh my God, our big problem is too many metahuman villains. Which is, I think, what you'd need to sell this. But anyway, in the comics, there are too many metahuman villains, so they start sending them via boom tubes, which is a very specific mode of transportation used by the New Gods and Darkseid and those characters. And they just dump all the supervillains there. And I mean all the supervillains. I guess it's half Arkham City, because that is the idea. Is they're like, listen, Lex Luthor, you want to rule the world. Here's a world. It's a world that, it's going to be tough, but you want to show us what your perfect society is? Go crazy. And it seems like Amanda Waller and Rick Flag kind of genuinely want them to do that. I think mostly they're like, whatever, get him out of our hair. But at that point, I don't think they're lying to like Lex Luthor and throwing him into this trap. I think it will become a trap, but I don't think they know that. But anyway, all the supervillains go. It reminds me a lot of the episodes of Justice League Unlimited where there is a schism in the Legion of Doom, because that's one of the things that happens immediately is like Joker and Lex Luthor both try to be in charge and neither of them can work with the other one. But, all the supervillains are like, we got to survive. We got to get out of here. it's a very James Gunn kind of story, which it totally fits him because, again, it's all the villains. It's the Suicide Squad. It's Planet of Suicide Squad, basically. All of them working together. Some of them are like better people and like trying to do good, whereas others are like psychopaths. It reads very Suicide Squad-y. But what we learn in Salvation is that it is not an empty planet with nothing. It is, in fact, a planet created by Darkseid and the New Gods. I don't know if it's created by the New Gods or Darkseid specifically, like one of those groups used by Darkseid. And it has lots of monsters on it. Very, very dangerous, like weird alien monsters. No one can quite figure out what their deal is. No one's seen them before. But the characters that spend time there are able to catalog it. But it turns out this planet is kind of like a Predator kind of situation where parademons, and I would assume other, people from Apocalypse that are working for Darkseid are sent there to hone their skills, prove they're the best of the best, whatever it is. And that is how they graduate to being a full-on soldier in Darkseid's army, I guess. So that is not why the supervillains are here. Usually the parademons would just fight the monsters, but that is something that's a problem for the supervillains when the monsters show up. Do I think that that's exactly what we're doing here? Because this is a pretty one-to-one translation of like the way that this idea is brought up, the characters that come up with the idea, how it is implemented. Like it feels sometimes with these things, you're like, oh yeah, that kind of took some ideas from this and some ideas from this book and some ideas from this. This one, it's like, no, this is just Salvation Run. So is the revelation that we get in the end of the episode that there's monsters here, does that mean that like Darkseid and the characters from Apocalypse are going to be the big bads in like phase 1 of the new DCU? It makes sense that it is called Gods and Monsters because they're the new gods and they're also like monsters. They're bad guys. Sure. It felt like to me a little too soon because we just did that in Zack Snyder DCEU. But like, I don't know. I think that's interesting. And it seems, unless he was misleading us, the Man of Tomorrow is very much going to be about Brainiac. Otherwise, why put a picture of a human brain on, unless it's the brain, like Monsieur Mala and the brain from the Doom Patrol, which is another super James Gunn coded project. But we just had a pretty good Doom Patrol show, so I'd be surprised if they reboot that immediately. Or it could be Simon, another character that shows up in Salvation Run. But like, if it's Brainiac, are they going to redo Brainiac's origin, having him being like a creature of Apocalypse? Because there are many people, including myself, whose first exposure to Brainiac was the version from the cartoon where he was from Krypton. That is not how Brainiac usually works. He is from Kolu. It's a different thing. The Harley Quinn show recently did Brainiac, and I think they kind of got it. I mean, they took a lot of liberties, but like they did that version of him. Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League also, I think, did Brainiac that way. But like, is this going to be a new reinvention where like maybe Brainiac is a prisoner of Darkseid who has escaped and is like assembling, trying to protect the universe from him? Is Brainiac like a program created by Darkseid to find places where, like Silver Surfer almost, to find other alien species that might be able to beat him? I don't know. There's a lot of ways they could go with this. I am interested, though. I was very surprised that we got such a direct line here to Man of Tomorrow, and that ended up being like a Darkseid-centered story. Anyway, that's fun. Also, I like the henchmen in these scenes. I enjoy watching them. Sidney Happerstein and Otis and all them. I think they were fun. So then we get Sasha Bordeaux being like, hey, it's bad because they want to throw the metahumans in there. I'm a metahuman because I'm a robot. So like, or cyborg or whatever. So, maybe this is a mistake. And also he's being a jerk. So now she's a good guy. So it's her switching to the good guy team. Fine. Makes sense when you see where this is going. But another character who like, I just really don't feel like we got enough of for me to be like psyched that she's here, but just fine. Oh yeah. And I haven't talked about the boat at all, which is like the whole beginning of the episode is the idea that we find out that this boat thing that Peacemaker's been talking about was a trip on some sort of rock cruise thing through like a harbor, like a party boat. I don't know if these are things people go to. It looks fun. And it is with a band called Nelson that I've never heard of, but James Gunn loves. And like, there's so much music in this episode. I would say, and this feels like a crazy thing to say, maybe a little too much. I also think like the James Gunn humor, James Gunn sensibility and stuff, I think he's fun. I think he's very good at constructing jokes and stuff. I think frequently the humor is a little more of like Drax's massive turds or whatever from Guardians 2, like this kind of gross humor that I don't really find as fun or as funny, and gets me kind of rolling my eyes when we hear it here. I think that was a big part of why the song choice in one of the scenes, one of the montages, one of the many montages of this episode, with this song, with I don't even want to say it because I don't want to get demonetized. I don't know what the rules are now. But like a very, very vulgar song. Like that's the joke. I watched the Peacemaker podcast because I always do. And like near the end, James Gunn is like talking about this song. He's like really into it. And Jennifer Holland, who is married to him, in that moment is like, ugh, like she's a little bit over some of the humor of like, that's funny because it's like a sex thing. I don't know. It's fine. But yeah, so we learned that they had this really great moment, really wonderfully filmed, where they kissed and then she felt overwhelmed by it and doesn't believe that she's like should be with Chris or with anyone, partially because of the Rick Flag Jr. thing, but also just partially because she feels like she's kind of a mess. And I thought that felt right. That's kind of what I expected. From where these characters were. So fun. And then the team tries to locate Peacemaker and they do what we've already gotten plenty of this season, where a character tries to vamp or like improv through a scene and it goes poorly. I think certain times this works better than other times for me. This time, while I thought it was funny enough, it's like, this is not a convincing thing that he's doing. Like, I get that the people around him are kind of dumb, like, Sidney Happerstein and like Otis, they're like kind of silly characters, but like what's happening in front of them is happening right in front of them. And they were telling Economos like, do a distraction. And he's like, oh, I'm going to do a distraction. And then he goes back, goes, the distraction's going badly. And I'm like, keep distracting them. We almost have the, like, I don't know. It's fine. Then they find Peacemaker and they give him the big talk. Now, one thing I loved in this talk was the idea that Peacemaker's like, I'm cursed. And he said the thing that more characters have to start saying in this, which is like, listen, this is a weird world full of weird stuff, and maybe magic is a thing. Like, it's probably what this is. That's not what's going on, but I like the characters in this world are like, yeah, I don't know, maybe it's magic. That's a thing that none of us understand and appears to be real. And we have this great, very emotional scene where I've kind of described what this ends up being, but it's Adebayo saying like, we need to do our own thing. We have been victims. A lot of people have taken advantage of us, and that has led to just terrible stuff. So we need to do our own thing. And then Peacemaker finds out from Hardcore that the kiss meant a lot to her. And then he does a happy dance. And then we do again the theme song, which is what they did last season, to be fair. They did the Wigwam song for the big fight. I feel like if we're doing that though, in the future, just don't do it. Don't do an opening with, like, we could skip the opening and then just, because it's weird hearing it twice. I know the Peacemaker opening's so great, but like, just go watch old openings if you really want to see one. But like, it doesn't feel like it's necessary if we're just going to hear the whole song over again. And also the opening like reminds me like, what the was Red Saint Wild Steel? Why was this character here? What's the point? And like, part of it's like, he's fun, he was fun, but like, I kind of would have liked to learn more about like some of these other characters, like Flurry or Judo Master or something, like get more characterization with them, because like they're going to be part of this in the future. Or we could build up to where we're going to be now, which is okay, this is my least favorite part of the episode for sure. So our characters all have this really strong, like emotional scene. Like, we got to do something. We got to do good. And I'm like, all right, so you're going to storm the, compound or whatever, kill all those guys, steal the door thing. I mean, like, that's not exactly it, but like, they're going to do something. They're going to make a stand. And I think if they hadn't already outed Amanda Waller in season 1, they just do that, but they can't do that either. But so I'm like, okay, so what's it going to be? What's the thing? So they get the money, which I'm like, good. It's cool that we're using the money, and it's funny to watch him do the little dance around the money. But then they buy or rent and furnish a bougie office, but one of those companies that like makes a dating app, but like for only left-handed people or something. It'd be called like Lefty, and you'd be like, is that really going to be a business? Why do they have all these nice chairs? And it's like, I don't know, maybe they'll probably just disappear, or maybe it'll be the biggest thing ever. And they like get all their pencils, they open their pencil box, and then they also go to a Foxy Shazam concert. Not all of them, just Peacemaker and Harcourt, which like, invite the crew. This is a fun moment for the whole team. It would be fun to see them all having, little interactions together. But then it turns out they're going to make a spy agency, and that's what they've been building towards. And that's the big Act 3, like, whoa. And that's how they're going to, like, whoa, that's how they're going to take it to the man. Which, in theory, fine. My first issue, this does not look like his spy agency. I don't think spy agencies, like what they seem to want to be, traditionally have storefronts. But whatever. They're not really, like, they maybe will say, like, what they are will be characterized as a spy agency. But if anything, they're like Private Eyes maybe or something, whatever. I mean, they're like going to be like international terrorists or something. But like, they're they haven't specifically said, like, we're going to be a secret spy agency. So it isn't as wild that they would have this office at all. Like, if the office was a front for something else, they're like, oh, we're going to make pet store would be perfect for this. That's secretly the front for our spy thing. That would make total sense. But instead it's just like, we're making the front and it's the spy thing. Every character, even the ones that we like don't really have too much of a connection to, but like, hey, it's him, he came to this, they're all there. Also, this is a nitpick, not unlike my podcast, Mostly Nitpicking, where every week we pick apart a piece of pop culture by looking exclusively at the details. How is the finale bit where Flurry and Vigilante are talking about animal facts, not a bird thing, where Flurry is learning about birds from Vigilante, and the bit is that Vigilante is like teaching him things about birds that are just flat out wrong. Here's what it'll be. Here's the scene, right? Flurry sees Eagly in the office, because Eagly's in the office, and they're like, at one point they're clipping his nails, which good. Someone should do that for this bird. They should put little plastic things on him so he can't scratch everybody's eyes out. But Flurry would see it and go, oh my God, it's that duck from earlier. And then Vigilante would be like, that's not a duck, actually. That's an eagle. In fact, it's an American bald eagle. And it has 4 talons on each foot, and it eats bologna. Flurry would be like, is that true? And Vigilante would be like, oh yeah, I know all the eagle facts. And then Flurry would be like, this is my guy. He knows all the eagle facts. And then you see Economos in the background, maybe face palming or shaking his head like, oh no. But like, that's that interaction. Right now, like spiders, I don't know. It's weird. It's a stupid nitpick, but it's my nitpick. I've given it to the world now, so that is it. And then we walk outside very triumphantly, very heroically, and we see the sign for the place, and it says "Checkmate" with a chess piece as the logo, and says like making the world better or something. And like me and the comic nerds are like, oh, Checkmate, right? That's a spy agency that sets up Salvation in the comics. So like that connection makes sense. Sacha Bordeaux frequently a part of that. It seemed like the Amanda Waller show had gotten folded into some Checkmate show where it's like a more clandestine version of Argus. Like that makes sense. But like, I think this like speaks to all the problems with where this ends. Is like, and I have not seen a good explanation for like, what the is it called Checkmate? How did we get to this point where we're gonna reveal the logo and reveal what the name of this company is, and it's like something we've never heard before, and it like only makes sense in the comics? Like, it's not quite like, hi, I'm Charlize Theron, your wife from the comics, Doctor Strange, let's go to the next movie. But it kind of feels like that. It feels like the Khan twist in Star Trek Into Darkness, where like we know what that is, but like the characters, when it's like, I'm Khan, and like characters like, okay, who's that? Because they didn't see the other Star Trek movies. And Checkmate is like a spy agency, but it's organized structurally by chess. So like there's kings and queens and pawns, and they all have different jobs. Like that's why it's called Checkmate, besides just like chess and checkers and stuff. I don't remember any character in this season playing chess or any game like that. So A, can't be for that. B, like that's never been something the characters care about. It's not like and it just feels so rushed, and also like in the comics, but like clearly it feels like this should have been to me. And as like they walk out, I'm like, oh, there's gonna be some reveal. And I kind of, in my head, I was like, it better not just be the word Checkmate. And it was. I just kind of assumed like the thing would be called Peacemakers or Adebayo, whatever, like Leota's spy agency, whatever she had before, because that was already a name that she liked and had picked out. But the reveal would be that this office is on 11th Street, right? Like that would be where it is, and that would be like significant. So it's like, oh, this is the next thing for the 11th Street kids, and like this is, you know, they're moving on up and getting like formalized, and or just call the spy agency the 11th Street kids. But like I did expect someone to say like, hey, why do we get this office, by the way? It's pretty expensive. And then, you know, Adebayo or Peacemaker, whoever would know this, be like, it's a good location. And then as you pan out, it'd be like 11th Street. Like, oh, that's cute. But instead, it's just like, Checkmate. Ooh, new show. I don't know, man. I think this feels like one of my least favorite versions of this. Because honestly, even the Clea thing is like kind of like a, oh, he's going to go on another adventure. It just happens to be somebody from the comics. But this feels like there would be something meaningful here if this was done well. But it doesn't feel like this element of it was. Like if this ending was more thought through, there would be something. Characters would be playing chess throughout the season or something. Or some character would be like, oh, I gotcha. You're all just pawns or something like that. That would be a motif that keeps coming up. And then this would be them. But that none of that exists. And it's just like, checkmate, you know, because that's a new show we're going to do, or a comic or something. And it's like, okay, so these people are a spy agency with a front door with a sign outside that's like, checkmate. Like, checkmate is not a nice thing. Like, the way you would expect this to go, they would be something else. The Caring Foundation, making the world better, and then, there'd be the front. And I only say that because, like, that's what we see is this bougie office thing with, like, little chairs and, everybody's got pencils and putting pencils in their nose, right? So that's what you would see from the street. So, like, that was what the sign would look like. And you get there and you'd be like, oh, this name is way more serious than this office. Like, it just doesn't fit. I would say out of everything in the season I didn't like, I think there's way bigger problems with certain things. Like, I didn't like the way the reveal, like everything I said about the Nazi and how that kind of undercut the tension there. I also didn't like the ending, but this just felt like the big scene to me where it's like, this needed more. And I think James Gunn knows that, right? And I think the kind of nothingness of this reveal proves that, like, something was not working. So yeah, this bugged me more than anything else. And also, this was apparently supposed to be the original ending. This thing where they send Peacemaker into the quantum unfolding, not a thing in the original draft of the script, and it's better without it. Shouldn't be in here. Especially because it totally undermines, like, oh, we're gonna be a spy agency and we're all gonna have fun. Oh, never mind, Peacemaker stolen. So when we do another season of this, we don't have to get John Cena. I guess that's part of why. And also, like, Rick Flag is just like a straight up bad guy now. And also, like, we want to tease Darkseid. We haven't really done that yet. Like, we did a little bit, but, like, we want to do it more. But, like, man, the whiplash here. And I wouldn't mind if all of the characters were here and it was like, oh, that's what they're going to be doing next season, escaping this thing. I don't love it, but, like, that's a thing. But instead, it's just, like, really arbitrary bad guy stuff, throwing Peacemaker into this thing. It just feels like another sequel-y setup thing of, like, oh, this is going to be the next season, or there's going to be Man of Tomorrow or whatever. And I just didn't care for it. Like, I think tonally it didn't fit. And yeah, it undercuts what is a very sweet little ending. And a sweet little ending that I don't think fully worked either, but at least, like, had the spirit of what I think it was going for. So putting these things together, crazy to me. Foxy Shazam is cool. That's a cool guy. Dancing around. Also, Foxy Shazam, in the new DCU, or in any DC universe, are they named after Shazam? Is Shazam named after them? Is that just a coincidence? Like, in a world where there's a superhero flying around named Shazam, I would assume the band is named after him. But I don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But I don't know. Overall, I think this episode was fine if there were more episodes, because I think the way this episode ended the season was very uneven, and, like, it clearly we're missing something. Part of that could be maybe they were rushing to get it done, but, like, the idea that James Gunn directed and wrote a bunch of this and also the Superman movie at, like, the same time, and they talk about this in the podcast, like, we were filming this scene at the same time as we were filming this scene. That's why I had these guys on set. It's like, man, you just do one. And, like, I don't know, because, like, I think there's still way more good than bad on this show. Like, there's so many great character moments, and I think there's people that will connect with that and just be like, that's enough for me for this to be a full success. And I understand that. For me, like, I wish it was that, but I just don't feel it. I think a lot of people have expressed that they don't feel that either. I'm like, I understand why, but, like, to be fair, it's better than a lot of other stuff on TV right now. It is well shot. It is well acted. It is largely well written. If you get past some of the, gross out humor and stuff, and it's got a heart, and that's great. But, like, if you compare it to Creature Commandos, which was another very James Gunn-y project, that also had a quite weird finale that also felt kind of uneven. And I'm wondering if that's just where we are. But, like, Peacemaker Season 1 had such a nice, clean finale that it's like, he can do this. But I don't know. I just feel like this needed more time in the oven. Because I think these could be really great. These have been really great in the past. You know what else is really great? Nebula. Because Nebula, as I'm sure you know by now, but if you have not heard of it before, is a subscription streaming service that me and a bunch of my YouTuber friends helped to create. Is a platform where we're free to not have to worry about the algorithm. I put all my videos, my Nando V Movies videos and my Nando Cut videos up early. So if you want to see my next video now, which is about the Serpent Society in the MCU and why that's kind of a mess, you can watch that early, or you can wait until it comes onto YouTube in, like, I don't know, like couple weeks, a month or whatever. Like, who wants to wait? It's fun to watch stuff now. This video was early on Nebula. You can watch it, maybe a couple hours early, but still, all the videos early, ad-free. You can download them on your phone, so that's nice. You don't have to worry about like taking up all the data. But then the most exciting thing right now is our production of Nebula Originals. So these are like movies, short films, plays, documentaries. These are all created by Nebula. So these are our people. These all tend to be projects the creators are really passionate about. And we're able to put out like some really cool stuff. Patrick Willems has a short film coming out very soon that they just put a teaser out for called The Dinner Plan, which like, it's not out yet, but like I've talked to Patrick about it. It's very fun. I don't want to just like tell you everything about it, but like it's cool. And it has people you definitely recognize, like John Hodgman's in it, Zach Cherry is in it. And then we have another show coming out called Subliminal, which Patrick directed an episode of, which I wrote an episode of. It is an anthology. You will see so much stuff for it in the future. When the trailer is out, I will be sharing it constantly. But if you want to, A, see all our videos early, get access to all of that, and B, help us creators make all this cool stuff that we could not make by ourselves, give Nebula a look because it's great. And it is a steal at $60 a year or $5 a month. But if you go to go.nebula.tv/thenandocut, you can get a year of Nebula for $36. That's just $3 a month. It is an incredible deal. Go check it out now. That's all I got. Stay safe, everybody.